Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to the Art Studio. Today I want to talk a little bit about some firmware updates that came overnight from Panasonic Lumix as well as Profoto. They now work in conjunction, and I had a little bit of time to spend working with the new Profoto TTL system and the TTL-O/L remote. And I want to talk about that a little bit, as well as all the other cool firmware updates that came overnight from Lumix as well. So stay tuned. So if you follow our channel, you already know I'm a Lumix ambassador. I use cameras for just about everything. Yes, I'm a multi-faceted artist doing painting and fashions and music and so much more, but the camera's at the center of everything that I'm doing. And so overnight, Lumix announced some big firmware updates coming very soon, November 19th to be exact, which will allow you to do a lot of different things with your Lumix cameras. And this isn't just for the new full-frame S line. This is for the GH5, the GH5S, the G9. They all will now have compatibility with the Profoto TTL-O/L remote. What that means is if you've already got the Profoto TTL-O, all you need to do is do a firmware update. You'll update your firmware on your camera, and now the TTL modes will work across both of them. And I got an opportunity to get out and test that. Beyond that, Lumix announced a whole boatload of new features. It was like firmware updates galore across all their line. And so I'm actually going to send you over to my buddy Photo Joseph's channel. I'll put a link up above that he goes into great detail about what all the different firmware updates do for whatever camera you're using, whether it's a G series or S series of camera. So I want to send you there because he's so detailed about it. No sense in redoing this here. So jump over there if you want to learn more of those details. But if you want to learn a little bit more about the Profoto TTL-O, I've got a few examples to share with you. We were actually just at Photo Plus last week, the big conference in New York City. And it was a really great time. I got to work in the Profoto Lumix booth alongside one of my favorite photographers, James Schmelzer, who's an incredible mentor to so many when it comes to teaching lighting and whatnot. So that said, we spent some time working with the TTL remote while we were in the city, and then Photo Joseph flew out from the West Coast at Lumix's direction to do a little behind the scenes video and shadow myself and my wife Jennifer as we were on a photo shoot to create some content that way as well. So let me just kind of give you a glimpse behind the scenes of how that all went down and all that we did. First photo shoot, we were in a loft in New York City. It was rainy out. We hoped to hit the streets, didn't have that opportunity due to the rain. But you can see Joseph here. He's got quite the incredible rig lined up here. He had the GH5 S and GH5 he was working with. He also had a Profoto, I shouldn't say Profoto, he also had a Lumix S1H, which was pretty exciting, and he created a lot of content there. So after leaving the city, we went up to the Northeast, caught some of the fall colors with our models, and just put the TTL through the paces. So daytime in the city, sunset at the city, fall colors, sunset and fall colors. And then he actually stayed with us for a couple of days here at our home in Connecticut, and we worked in our studio a little bit in the final part of the session. And it just gave us an opportunity to say, okay, how good is this TTL? How good is it going to work for us in all of these situations? And I'm happy to say that there's no question in my mind they got it right. The Profoto firmware update coinciding with the Lumix firmware update is completely spot on. What I love about the Profoto remotes, and let me just kind of mention this a little bit, is that you've got the ability on the TTL-O/L to do different groups. Let me see if I can get a close-up here. You can set different groups, A, B, or C, and control your flashes from camera individually. You can also have separate channels set up. So, you know, in the trade show, for instance, there may be 15 different trade show booths working on Profoto systems. So it's just dialing in the channel that you need and the group that you need to make it work for you. So ability to do that, control it all from camera. There's also a different remote. This is the new TTL-O Connect remote. It's tiny, it's simple. There's no grouping here. You basically say, I'm either shooting manual or automatic. You turn it to do it. A little firmware update, and this was up and running for me as well. And so I should mention, what we were working on that's kind of unique, for us anyway, is we also picked up the new Profoto B10 system as well. And I actually think that I want to do a complete tech talk on this particular flash system, because I'm actually using this in a variety of different ways in our studio. Beyond strobes, it also has an amazing LED built in, and so we'll go into that in another chapter. But these are remarkably small. They are battery powered, of course, as well. But any Profoto strobe that has TTL capabilities will work with this system. I know that because we worked with our B1s here in Connecticut. We worked with the B10s. In New York City at the Javits Center, we tested them out with the B1X. All of it worked just flawlessly. So it will work across all of them. And in fact, it will even work with the Profoto A1 and A1X. There isn't a Profoto A1 or A1X for the top of your Lumix strobes, but if you happen to own the Nikon or Canon version, so on and so forth, you can actually fire them remotely and have it TTL for your camera. So good news for anybody who's maybe on one of those platforms and kind of wants to move over to Lumix, has been holding out because they're Profoto users. Now it's like a perfect marriage. We're all working together. We're all happy as can be. So just wanted to give a little update on my experience with it. Let me share just a few stills from our shoot, give you an example and an idea of just how beautiful the TTL works, how flawlessly here. So little shot from the city there up in our loft. And then we were overlooking the skyline, and it was beautiful. The sky started to clear, which was really fantastic for us. And you know, as the sun started to set, we kind of just dragged the shutter a little bit and captured some great images that way, still seeing the city in the distance. And even late at night, what I love about, I should mention, one thing that I absolutely adore about the B10s is you can dial them almost down to nothing in terms of their output. So I was actually even in the studio working with the 50-1.4 at 1.4 and having no problems doing that because I wanted that extreme tight depth of field. A couple more examples here just to share. You know, just something natural, up on a cliff here, a little bit at sunset. And so there's times we want to really feel the strobe. There's times where we just want to feel natural but have great color, great contrast. Here at sunset up at a vineyard just around the corner from our Connecticut studio, and then something in the studio as well. You can see all my paintings in the background there. And at 1.4, that's why I wanted to work at 1.4 so that we could blur it all off in the distance. So, you know, TTL, I haven't really missed it a whole lot because I work manually most of the time. That's how I learned to work with strobe. But I gotta say, when you're setting up fast or when light is changing quickly, you've got clouds rolling in and out, you've got sun kind of changing constantly, it was actually quite a beautiful thing to have something that just spoke to the camera so gracefully and just a nailed exposures each and every time. It's also great if you just want to get in, get your exposure in TTL, and then switch it over to manual and you're locked into that exact exposure. So it's another way to think about it. So that's a wrap on today. Again, you want to learn more about the Lumix firmware updates, dive over to Photo Joseph's site via the link, and glad to say we're working Profoto TTL now on Lumix cameras. That's a wrap, guys. We appreciate you. Have a great one. Take care.